Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents Beyond the Realm. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time that I go live. Okay, if you haven't been receiving your notifications, please make sure that you double check to make sure you're still subscribed to this channel. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Queen Ahmadiyyah also on Instagram at divine_goddess_27, Twitter at dgoddess27, Brighton and Patreon at Queen Ahmadiyyah. Okay, so I see we have Silent D, Raymond Jack is here, Cutie Tootie, Cherokee Descendant King, Lee Harv, Every Blackfire, Craig Killmonger, Conscious Outlaw is Black. Thank you for sharing it, Conscious. Everyone, please get the likes up. Please make sure you like and share the video. Okay, hello, Dervis, Ramsey7, Monica. All right, Goodness Reddit Bo. Let's get into it, people. Now, I'm going to be doing 3 scary stories back to back. So buckle your seatbelts, and I hope you have your popcorn ready. And there will be a brief intermission in between each story so that you have time to get your snacks. Okay? All right, so first, we're going to be talking about the haunted steel mill in Birmingham, Alabama, known as the Sloss Furnaces. Okay? Thank you, Melanated Brown, beloved. Okay. Now, this is the urban legend of the Sloss Furnace. From 1882 to 1971, Birmingham Sloss Furnaces transformed coal and ore from surrounding acres into the hard steel that would pave the way for the Industrial Revolution. Now, from skyscrapers in New York's glittering skyline to automobiles built in Detroit, America came to rely on Birmingham and Sloss Furnaces for providing materials needed to produce thousands of products. Birmingham grew to a metropolis almost overnight, earning it the nickname of the Magic City. But as with all progress, a price was paid. The currency was blood. Now, in the early 1900s, James Slag Wormwood was the foreman of the graveyard shift, and the period between sunset and sunrise is when he worked, where a skeleton crew is what they were called, of nearly 150 workers toiled and worked tirelessly to keep the furnace fed. Now, during the stifling summer months, temperatures throughout the plant would reach more than 120 degrees sometimes. Lack of sleep, the heat, and low visibility made working the furnace literally a living hell. And only the poorest workers who were desperate for employment would continue to work there. Now, these workers, mostly recently arrived immigrants, they were forced to live in cramped housing located on the furnace site and could be forced at any moment to return to work. That means even in the middle of the night when they were trying to get their rest, someone could come and wake them up and say, hey, you need to get to work right now. Now, to impress his supervisors, Wormwood would make his workers take dangerous risks, forcing them to speed up production. Now, during his reign, 47 workers lost their lives, and that's 10 times more than any other shift in the history of the furnace. Countless others lost their ability to work due to accidents, mishaps, and even a recorded explosion in the small blowing engine house in 1888, which left 6 workers burned blind. Now, there were no breaks, there were no holidays, there was only the furnace and its constant hunger for more and more coal. Now, in October of 1906, James Slag Wormwood lost his footing at the top of the highest blast furnace, the one that was known as Big Alice, is what they called it. And he plummeted into a pool of melted iron ore. His body immediately melted. Now, it was reported that Slag must have become dizzy from the methane gas created by the furnace and lost his balance. But Slag had never set foot on the top of the furnace during his entire years of employment there, so some were suspicious. Many thought that perhaps the workers had finally had enough of all of his slave driving, and maybe they had taken Wormwood and fed him to the furnace themselves, but no workers were ever charged. Sloss Industries soon discontinued the graveyard shift, citing numerous reports of accidents and strange incidents that deceased steel production. Now, the legend of Slag grew each year after his disappearance. Workers complained of an unnatural presence being felt, and they increasingly encountered it throughout the work sites. A night watchman in 1926 sustained serious injuries after being pushed from behind and told angrily by a deep voice that was disembodied to get back to work. Now, the man, upon searching the grounds, could find no sign of any other persons on the property. Then in 1947, 3 supervisors turned up missing. They were later found unconscious and locked in the small boiler room in the southeastern part of the plant. None of the 3 could explain exactly what had happened to them. All agreed they were approached by a man whose skin appeared badly burned and who angrily shouted at them to push some steel. Probably the most horrifying tale occurred in 1971, when the night before the plant closed, Samuel Blumenthal, the Sloss night watchman, who was nostalgically taking a last look about, found himself face to face with the most frightening thing he had ever seen. He described it as simply evil, a half man and a half demon who tried to push him up the stairs. When Blumenthal refused, the monster began to beat on him with its fist. Upon examination by Dr. Jack Barlow, Blumenthal was found covered with intense burns. He died before ever returning to Sloss. Now, there have been more than 100 reports of suspected paranormal activity at Sloss Furnaces that have been recorded in Birmingham police records. From minor incidents such as steam whistles apparently blowing by themselves to major sightings and the rare physical assaults. It is interesting to note that the majority of these reports happen in the months of September and October at night during the old graveyard shift. Some merely dismiss the occurrences as Halloween hoaxes. Others believe it is the restless spirit of the sadistic foreman, Slag. Now, in 1988, a study was conducted by the Center for Paranormal Events, known as the CPE. This was done in St. Petersburg, Florida, on Sloss Furnaces. Now, while no events out of the ordinary occurred during the study, which occurred in May, many of the team members, including 2 psychics, claimed that due to the violent disregard for and the loss of life, Sloss Furnaces should be considered a location rife with restless souls. Now, in the year 2000, Sloss was studied once again by the paranormal team of Fox's Scariest Places, who concluded that it was one of the highest rates, or had one of the highest rates of unnatural energy that they had ever encountered. In early 2002, a skeptical investigative team from CBS affiliate WJTV investigated the site as well. They left frazzled and convinced that Sloss was haunted, capturing amazing footage that can be seen on their site. Now, in addition, another investigation was held in 2003 by the Alabama Foundation for Paranormal Research, who quoted that, "There is no doubt Sloss is a hot spot for paranormal activity. During our investigations, we pulled data that confirms through our scientific methods and approach that energies are present that cannot be explained. Sloss is one of the most paranormally active places that our team has ever investigated," they said. Then on October the 4th of 2003, another assault happened to one of our crew members. This is what Josh Thomas reported, who had worked at Sloss for many years, suddenly caught fire, he says. One of the workers suddenly caught fire after seeing a strange shape. He suffered burns up and down his body and was taken to the hospital, and he still cannot recall exactly what happened. Now, strangely enough, This was almost the exact 32nd anniversary of the Samuel Blumenthal burn attack. This that was what the night watchman said. Now, in 2005, two psychic investigators from the TV show Airline investigated Sloss Furnaces. In the middle of the taping, one of them began to spontaneously bleed from a cut that appeared in his right hand, halting the investigation, but not before the camera crew caught images of spirits on film. Now, in 2009, the Unexplained Mystery Investigation team investigated Sloss and were shocked to capture spiritual shadows on film. And in 2012, the team from Ghost Adventures visited and were physically assaulted. And this again was caught on film. In 2014, TAPS, Ghost Hunters, they visited Sloss Furnaces and filmed absolutely phenomenal footage proving that there is definitive spiritual activity at Sloss, and have since returned to capture even more evidence. Now, the Sloss Furnace team continues to archive these sightings, both from the press as well as individuals on frightfurnace.com. That is clearly a spooky place, people. I definitely wouldn't want to go there. Okay? Ghost Adventures, my that's your shite, Judah Queen. So crazy, right? So now let's talk about some personal experiences that people have experienced there. These are stories that people who've actually been there have told. Now, a woman by the name of Rebecca, or she speaks of her and her husband, Rebecca and Robs. They say on October the 10th of 2019, she says, my husband and I and two of our daughters went to Sloss around 1, recorded from time to time with pictures. Now, she says, I've caught a girl humming on the video. The humming is clear with headphones, and it's faint without it, as well as her hearing groans and someone saying psst or shh and a yay to my husband talking. All sounded creepy. And then a woman by the name of Kayla says, I'm not a believer in the paranormal. I did, however, attend the haunted walkthrough in October of last year. The walkthrough itself was fun. We went home afterwards. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? Well, the day after, my husband told me there was a very dark colored bruise on the back of his arm. Someone by the name of Lindsay says, I was there in 2009. I heard footsteps even though I was the only person there. It was ice cold in the middle of summer. I had multiple batteries die in my camera, and as I was walking out, I had the back of my hair stand up and felt like someone ran their hand through my hair. A man named Bill says, I have been to Sloss many times, only once for the haunted house. I work with a local paranormal group, and we have found and caught several spirits. The two most active areas seem to be the tunnel and the boiler room. I have been touched in both areas and caught amazing EVPs. Now, someone by the name of Jared says, while walking through the Fright Furnace tour, we entered a tunnel. I was last in line, and it was very dark, and I found it very hard to see. I felt a warm breath on the back of my neck. Out of fear of what kind of demonic actor was standing behind me, I jolted. This is all so crazy, people. So there's many of these stories. I'm not going to read them all because there are a lot of people who say they had personal experiences there. So what I am going to do, though, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen and show you a bit of a documentary on Sloss, okay? Hold on just a moment. Everyone, please get the likes up. Please like and share the video. Okay.
Sloss Furnaces, listed by paranormal investigators as one of the top 100 most haunted sites in America. More than 67 workers lost their lives on this hallowed grounds. Grant Hainsworth, who perished in 1921 when he was crushed to death by gears in the diesel shed behind me. And Noah Tyson, who met his untimely end when molten ore spilled out of this container, catching him on fire. Memories of death are everywhere at Sloss, have been since the beginning. Built in 1872, Sloss Furnaces helped transform the sleepy town of Birmingham into a thriving metropolis virtually overnight, earning it the nickname the Magic City. Thousands of immigrants, desperate for jobs and a better way of life, flocked to Birmingham to take their part in the Industrial Revolution. They came in search of streets paved with gold. Instead, what they found was this: dilapidated barracks for the workers and their families. Sometimes as many as 30 people living in a unit such as this. There was no privacy, no cozy house to come home to at the end of a long 16-hour shift. The men could be awoken at any time to go back to work. They literally belonged to the furnace.
They sold their souls. That's what they did. When you worked at Sloss Furnaces, you didn't receive money. You got clacker. Oh, it looked like money all right, but it could only be used to pay the company back for living in their shotgun houses or to purchase goods at the company's store. Once you worked at Sloss, you could never leave. Clacker wasn't taken anywhere else, so you could never save up enough to move on to a better life. You joined as a furnace worker, and you would die as a furnace worker. Life held nothing else for these people.
Working in temperatures that reached 115 degrees in the summer, long 16-hour days without the promise of rest at night, no savings ever to speak of. Life for a Sloss worker was a living hell. But in the early 1900s, it was about to become deadly. In 1903, a new foreman arrived at Sloss. His name was James Robert Wormwood, but he soon became known to his workers as Slag. Wormwood was given the graveyard shift, that period between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m., where a skeleton crew of 150 men toiled to keep the furnaces fed. To impress the owners, Wormwood forced his men to speed up production, making them take dangerous risks. And during his reign, 47 workers lost their lives, 10 times more than any other shift in the history of Sloss. Countless others lost their ability to work due to accidents and mishaps. An explosion recorded in 1905 in the small blowing engine house left 6 workers blind and 2 others burned within inches of their lives. Was it the intense heat and dark night that made working at Sloss so dangerous? Or was it Slag's sadistic streak?
Well, the legend goes that there was a pick worker. These were the fellas that used to pick the ore out of the rock, and he had forgotten his glove. And you sure didn't want to pick out that stuff with your hands. Most of it was sharp as knife. Well, old Slag comes along and tells him you better work without those gloves, and if there was one less piece of ore than usual, he would be fired without pay. What's the guy to do? He went to work. Imagine sticking your hands into piles of razor blades for 8 hours. And you can only imagine what this fella's hands looked like. Well, old Slag comes around, looks at the fellow's hands, and they were filled with blood, and fires him, saying he was worthless.
On October 16, 1907, James Slag Wormwood lost his footing above the highest blast furnace known as Big Alice and plummeted into a pool of molten iron ore. His body was incinerated instantly. The reports say that Wormwood became dizzy because of methane gas created by the furnace and lost his balance. But Slag had never been on top of the furnace in all his years at Sloss. Many people think his workers, finally tired of his constant slave driving, had decided to feed him to Big Alice. But no workers were ever brought to trial. Sloss Industries discontinued the graveyard shift in 1911, citing numerous reports of accidents and strange incidents that contributed to a decrease in production. But for workers and visitors to Sloss, they would soon realize that Slag was not a man to be rid of easily.
Haunted? I don't know so much about that. We've had a number of calls. Machinery coming on by itself, lights going on and off, strange noises, always during the middle of the night when the facility is supposed to be unoccupied. There's something going on out there, but I can't explain it.
Throughout the years, more and more workers have complained of an unnatural presence throughout the site. In 1926, Pernell Williamson, a mechanic, received injuries when he was pushed in the back and heard a deep voice telling him to get back to work. But a search of the grounds revealed no one. In 1947, 3 men turned up missing. Hours later, they were discovered unconscious in here, a small boiler room in the southeast sector of the plant. While they could not explain what had happened to them, they all agreed that they had been accosted by an angry man who shouted at them to push some steel. But perhaps the most horrifying tale came less than 30 years ago, in 1971.
It was the night before the plant closed, and the night watchman, a fellow named Samuel Blumenthal.
Hold on, people. That part's on another video, so hold on just a moment. While I cue that, everyone please get the likes up. Please like and share. Like and share. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Okay, here we go. Just a couple more minutes.
Came less than 30 years ago, in 1971.
It was the night before the plant closed, and the night watchman, a fellow named Samuel Blumenthal, was taking a last look about when he found himself face to face with something he said was the most frightening thing he'd ever seen. He described it as a half man, half demon who attacked him as he was checking the north gate. Later, Blumenthal went to the emergency room where his back was found to be covered with intense burns. He vowed he would never return to Sloss. And you know, he never did. Can you blame him?
Birmingham police records include nearly 100 reports of unnatural activity at Sloss Furnaces. It is interesting to note that a majority of these events occurred during the months of September and October, during the old graveyard shift. While many people believe that these are merely Halloween hoaxes, others feel that it's the restless spirit of the sadistic foreman Slag. In 1997, the Sloss Historical Society arranged for the Center for Paranormal Events in St. Petersburg, Florida, to come examine the site. Setting up night vision cameras, the crew spent 2 days filming locations throughout the complex. What they found is still being debated around the world. At 2 a.m. on May 12, 1997, this image appeared in the camera lens. Psychics claim it's a mass of angry energy. Skeptics call it a reflection of light. But from where did the light reflect? And why was it never seen on any other tape at any other time? Is Sloss Furnaces haunted? Do the restless spirits of workers roam this dark memory of an industrial age, doomed forever to toil under the iron fist of the sadistic foreman known as Slag? Perhaps you will find out tonight on your journey through the furnace.
Creepy. That was really creepy, people. So that's the story. And I can't remember who asked me to discuss that story. Was it Cherokee Descendant King? I can't remember who asked me to talk about the Birmingham steel mills. But anyway, that was very interesting. I enjoyed that one. I hope you all did too. So listen, everyone, please like and share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Make sure you click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time I go live. Also, if you haven't been receiving your notifications, double check to make sure you're still subscribed. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at QueenAhmadiyyah. Also on Instagram at divine_goddess_27. Twitter at dgoddess27. Brighton and Patreon at QueenAhmadiyyah. Now listen, thank you. Thank you, everyone. So listen, I'm going to be coming back to talk about the haunted history of Lake Lanier. Okay, that starts at 9 o'clock. So you have 16 minutes to get your snacks. All right. So I'm going to give a brief intermission. Then I'll be right back at 9 p.m. So everyone, please return right back to the chats. Okay. Thanks, Royal Family. And I'll talk to you all again soon. Peace.